So we're going to talk about Centenary University today. A little bit of a background why this project, the timing, come up with smart ideas to help them, which we're going to talk about, but the timing of it and how rapidly we need to do that, especially in higher education, is really, really important. So over the past year, we've worked with Centenary University, and when we started working with them, there were 77 colleges or universities in this country since COVID that have either closed or merged with another college or university. That's a lot. Now, to this morning, this date, there's 84 colleges and universities that have either gone away or merged. Just this morning, I was talking to Lisa about this because it's startling the changes. It's like an attack on higher education, and everything has changed for them. And everything we're going to talk about in this case study is incredibly relevant to change. So just this morning, on a really great higher ed dive newsletter that I get, in matter of minutes, you can see how quick this is pivoting. So New Jersey City University is now merging with Kean University, right? DePaul University basically is having substantial drop off in international students, 62% drop off, which is a shocking number, imagine. Carnegie Mellon's laying off 75 employees in their engineering group. Carnegie Mellon, right? Amazing. Washington University, which is in St. Louis, 300 employees are being laid off. And then Elon University in North Carolina, they're basically merging or taking over Queens University in North Carolina. Why do I bring this up? This is not only happening year over year right now, but this is happening by the minute. When there was a poll taken, a Pew poll that was taken recently, they looked at Democrats and Republicans and how they felt about higher education, and the numbers were startling. It was like 75 or so percent. I can quote it again later, but 75 or so percent of Republicans felt that higher education's on the decline, and the need for it, and how expensive it is, and everything. And then on the Democratic side, it was like 67% or something. So higher education's under siege. So the reason why I say all that is everything we're about to talk about is very relevant for what our challenges were in this case study with Centenary University, because they were facing the same issues that every single institution of higher education is facing in this country. And they have a few unique things. Everyone will, but in reality, it's the same thing that we're hearing. And it's even happening to those that are larger schools, those that have a big endowment versus those that don't. So what does that all mean? There has been declining enrollment in general, but at Centenary, enrollment was a bit off. There were some issues with their application experience, and there always is. Applications are hard. It's probably one of the biggest drop-off areas we find where you're losing people once they're interested. But very fascinating to us, and I live near Centenary University, was 15 minutes, 20 minutes in a car ride away. People don't know about Centenary. They were a hidden secret, right? Beautiful campus, really nice school, good people, but people don't know about them. That's a problem. And if you were previously marketing just in your area, then you would never get people that would love to leave, let's say, New York City, want to leave and come out to a sprawling campus, have safety, get away from the city. You would never know about them. And they weren't doing a lot of marketing. So tuition alone, as I always say, is not enough to keep a school going with costs that have changed. You can't keep charging more and more tuition because there's a big problem and pushback with that. So there was a financial strain that's definitely on the institution. And we were brought in by the new president, Dr. Dale Caldwell, has been there about a year or so now, to help address these type of challenges, because that's exactly what we do. Again, branding, marketing, and sales, and how we look at technology to fuel revenue generation. So that's the context.
So obviously, time was of the essence when we were brought in, that they needed to get everything done yesterday, last week, last month, get it done as soon as possible and get things turned around. So we did a very expedited audit process to be as efficient as we could make it, so that within weeks, we knew what are your top problems, but also what are your top areas of opportunity across the campus, across your programs. And so we wasted no time. We went and we very quickly built a brand and a strategy so that we could go right to turning the crank on admissions and turning the crank on revenue opportunities. So what we did was we created a brand story around a theme of "We See You" to drive home the message of what was really special about Centenary. When we did all of those interviews, there was a theme that kept coming up, was that this was a place that really recognizes you as a student, as an individual, that understands you, that values you, and then goes out of its way to support you achieving your dreams. It's a small institution, so you're not just a number that gets lost in a giant uh, economics 101 stadium class. You get to know you get to know the teachers individually. They get to know you. You get to know your advisor individually. It's not you're just not a number. This is a place that really supports students and families that want to do something special and see their college education as the first step in that whole career. So the we see you was a way to play on the C and the U of the university, but we see you as a person. So that was really the brand story that we created. And now I'm going to turn it over to Larry to talk about how that we see you brand came to life.
So, adding to Lisa's point before I get into the advertising, really where We See You came from, if everyone's seen the movie Avatar, there's a scene in Avatar where that was mentioned. I see you, and that means I respect you. I understand you. I took the time to understand something about you, and I think this is that special sauce of Centenary, and we played that up in the advertising. So let me talk a little bit about
And
it.
wait, before you do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the point of having this brand story is when we work with universities all the time, we often look at what they're saying. Everyone says the same thing. They say, here's the start of your career. Here we're going to get an education. All the same phrase, literally even the same words in a lot of cases, and that marketing universities for so many when they're marketing the admissions, it's just a matter of saying it louder and more often as opposed to what is a story that can differentiate you and make you stand out amongst all of the noise that prospective students get. Everyone's saying the same thing, same thing. Wait a minute, this place is special.
It was interesting creating a brand, a new logo that sits just underneath the Centenary University logo was very important because it wasn't just a campaign logo. It's a logo that's their call to action about what makes them different that is used in everything that we're going to talk about going forward, including their podcast. So we kicked off the largest advertising campaign in Centenary's history. They used to be Centenary College, then they become university. They've never did such a large campaign. That campaign consisted of billboards down Route 80, billboards on the side in Newark and Patterson, all over the key areas that we wanted to target. And we created an entire new visual vocabulary for them, a whole look and feel, a whole new system. And it was this stained glass of all of the different personalities and ethnic backgrounds and people coming together that were unique. And that was very successful. Then we carefully positioned all of our digital advertising across mobile, across Google Ads, the whole spectrum, social media, so that we got the biggest return on every ad dollar spent and drove down into that and kept making changes each week until we saw that we were actually pivoting and getting better results for our ads. And the better results were driving them all to landing pages that were curated with our new brand story, and then obviously onto who applied and how many applications did we get as a return on that investment. Living the brand, though, was really important. So you could just, and we've done this in CPG for many years, and Lisa and I were working with the Fortune 50. You can come up with great marketing to get people to buy any product. But how many companies literally live that product? One of the important factors we wanted to bring into the We See You campaign was live the brand. So if you say that you're all about people, what are you doing to be all about people? And living the brand was important. There was already this incredible thing that they started doing, which was called the Cyclone Concierge Program, where you sign up early, you give your commitment early, and you get a whole bunch of perks by doing that. And it was all about you, and it was catered to being about you. And it actually got people to really feel comfortable that they were being treated well. It was almost like a VIP program. We said, let's expand all of that to make it about everything's about them, all their experiences on campus, the way that they're approached when they come for a tour. They're now assigned somebody that follows them throughout the 4 years as an advisor, and they're hands-on in your curriculum. I was lucky, and I'll bring into this case study, I have my daughter's going there for certification as a teacher, and she had some unique things that were happening with her, and they customized the program around that, and she learned that there were other people that they customized things. Being able to be flexible like that and really serving up an education around what someone's needs are, to me, was the miracle of all this. It was, they truly are living the brand. So that was step number one.
Then one of the things that we discovered is we actually lost the head of marketing right when we started, so we had to really take over marketing and fill that gap. And it's often what we do is fill the gaps. So we started looking at all of the essential marketing tools that were needed to drive that enrollment. And one of the big gaps was their website. It was an old website, and in fact, it was so old that the technology that was running it, they were stopping servicing that. So without that extra support, it was only a matter of time before the website would break, and then there would be nobody to fix it. So we knew we needed to redo it. So we went in, and again, like all of these things, we needed to be extremely fast and extremely efficient with time and money because there was not either of them to spare. Had to move fast. So we went in and we looked at over 5,000 pages. What happens so many times is people just create a page and create a page. So there were duplicated pages, replacement pages that weren't taken down, and it was just a dizzying array. It was a knot really of broken links and 5,000 of them. So we did a really detailed top to bottom audit of all of those pages. And then we interviewed everybody who was involved with it, from the deans to various initiatives to sports, who was responsible for what part of that website, and how can we rebuild it to better serve what they wanted to communicate, and even more so what the visitors wanted to hear. It's not enough to say we want to say this. Visitors come to the site with an agenda, and we needed to serve the visitors' agenda. What did they need in terms of information? What did they need in terms of a transaction? What did they need to get done? And so we rebuilt that website from that strategic point of what the visitor wants, and making sure we overlaid what the different organizations needed to communicate as well. And we looked at visitor journeys from prospective students to current students, from parents to alumni, and even staff and the general public, because the school was open and had events that the general public would come to. So we made it super easy. We wanted visitors to hit that site, get what they needed within 2 or 3 clicks, and create a process that was very buttoned up, got rid of all of the junk pages, and created a moving forward to prevent junk pages and 5,000 pages from reblooming. What
Yeah.
is the process for creating content now? How does it done? Who needs a new page? How long that page is left up? Does it get taken down? And so that we could have a really strong digital platform that would take Centenary onto its digital future.
And we talked about breadth and we talked about speed. In this case, this is one of those where it's both. Typical website redo of this size, in higher education specifically, would typically be 7 to 12 months. This entire website was rethought and recreated within 5.5 months. And we were managed to bring in some partners that appreciated higher education and work with us to do this in record time at record budget, to make it work for Centenary, because they really needed it. So that's one part of it. And I think the second part of this is we also developed process centralizing, instead of having 22, 25 content creators, all of the content centralized through marketing. And marketing now understands what are the criteria that we need for them to be able to post something that I'm going to make for them or I'm going to post. So changing that whole thing was really important, because what we don't want is in a year or two that it goes back to being thousands of pages where people get lost in a website. And there's many websites for higher ed where they're so large, you get lost and you can't find anything, because we're not thinking about the visitor to the site as much as we're thinking about what do we got to offer and how do we put it all on the website.
Right.
That's a problem.
Right. And we made it faster. So many of people, there was some resistance to it because they're saying, oh, I need what I need, and now you're going to stop me. No, we made it faster to get them what they needed so that we could get their message out there better, faster. And as we always do, it all knits into telling that same brand story of we see you and respect you.
Yeah. So picking up on that, so one of the things that we did, Lisa had mentioned that they had lost their marketing leadership. We became sort of outsourced. There were some people within marketing. There were some people in business development that had creative and marketing skills. We worked with them to mentor them and train them on why we were doing certain things we were doing, how to template things, how to think more strategically when somebody asks you for a request. In addition to that, at the same time, there were lots of threads of work going on. Our whole team was on this project. We refreshed the university logo itself. The gold was getting, it looked a little bit more green and olive than it was
Or
gold. And
beige.
I know, yeah, it was a little bit beige. I'm wearing the gold shirt for Centenary today. And I know the president was wanting to see much more brighter colors. And we said, well, now's a good opportunity because we have the We See You brand. Your blue and your gold aren't friendly. They're very corporate colors. That's fine, but they're not very friendly. We made tweaks to the logo. We made a short version of the bug of the logo. We call it a bug when it's a mini logo that works in small areas. Like if you're going to have it on a website as a favicon or things like that, or in digital media, you need a smaller logo. So we started expanding out what their brand looked like, what it felt like, what it should mean. And this was everything from conceptualizing all the new banners on the campus when they were coming for upgrade as they were replacing them, all the posters and things that should be hanging on walls. It's important when you go around the walls and you see stuff all over and it's just taped up randomly, your institution actually starts to look a little busy and it looks a little run down versus keeping everything clean. We also created more efficient process for marketing requests in general. Again, back to features, advantages, benefits. Tell me I'm the visitor, I'm getting a flyer, or I see something, or you're putting an ad. Tell me what you're doing, what this event is about, why I would want to come, and what I'm going to get out of it. And that mentality we put in everything going forward of what would be part of the marketing process. And then lastly, on the print side of things, on the copywriting side of things, on executing, how do we create best practices across the board? Paper stock matters. Don't print things that you can see through when you hold it up to the light, because then it seems like it's cheesy. It doesn't feel right. Centenary was competing with colleges that have a lot larger budget. How do we look the part? Well, looking the part is thinking about print quality, consistency and use of your brand, your paper stock, your copywriting, your graphics, your branding, and even the photography. Photography is important. We want not so much stock photography. We want to see things where people are candid and they're in action on your campus.
And also a way to organize the photography so that when you need something, you know where to get it. Because when you don't have a lot of money, you have to be more efficient.
We brought in one of our professional photographers and did multiple shoots specifically for the website and new marketing materials and collateral materials. And then started to train the internal photographers. There were two of them, one in marketing and one other, how to create the right shots from a marketing point of view. The photography that they were doing was fine throughout the years. It captured a lot of events and things that were going on, but that's very different photography than the photography that you would use in a marketing shot, which is typically a little bit more staged. You got a little bit more branding. You have people doing a specific thing you want. So we were starting to show that side of marketing, and together we work with their team to do that. Then there were a whole bunch of new ads that we created and a whole bunch of new landing pages and sales sheets specific to new revenue ideas that the president had. They had a lot of great partnerships and services and certifications that now we wanted to get out there and start marketing heavily and start tracking those landing pages and see where those can go.
And one of the things, Dr. Caldwell was very entrepreneurial in the way he considered the university, thinking of it more as a bigger resource that provides degrees but can do so many other things. He was very creative with new ideas for revenue and new ways to use the resources of that campus.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a leader like Dr. Caldwell to actually really think about new revenue, think about new partnerships and how that might affect the university. It's really like a great template of a turnaround that he started there. And he had a lot of trust in us, and we appreciate that because we started working directly with all of their external partners that were revenue generating partners. And we were basically the go-to-market strategy and implementation, working directly with those partners on a daily basis.
Even creating their own brand stories for each one of their offerings and their own brand presentation for each one of those offerings.
One of the concepts that came up that we started implementing right away was We See You Experience, which is a podcast that could eventually be sponsored in corporate sponsorships to bring all of these stories and all these changes to Centenary to life. We produced the show. We redid the entire studio to make it branded with We See You. They have a radio station there. It's been there for many, many years. So how do we create an environment and an experience, bringing topics that Dr. Caldwell can host the show and bring in the right guests? We produced the show. We did the videography for the show. We did the posting of the content on social media. But that was a fairly inexpensive way for them to actually reach a whole different audience than just advertising alone or just a capital campaign alone that you would typically do.
But it continued to it continued to build the Centenary brand. It all contributed to that. And that was what was most
Yeah.
exciting.
So what we did was we gave them the beginning of all the right tools, processes, best practices, some training and insight to get them on their way. And that's what everyone needs right now in higher education is just a new perspective and some new tools and thinking and looking at revenue very differently.
Right. And not be in that statistics that you mentioned at the beginning of this. You don't want to be one of those statistics unless it's the statistics saying we bucked the trend, we're doing well.